everybody, welcome back to another lore video, and today we are going to be finishing up with Thanalan, and we're going to be covering both Central Thanalan and Northern Thanalan today, and that should be wrapping everything up that we know for, at least for the lore of the lands around Thanalan and Udon, and then next time we will be moving directly into the lands of Gridania, as well as the Twelves Wood, so I hope that everyone is looking forward to that. But today, let's just continue on with what we know so far about the rest of Thanalan. Yeah, so I've been loving this series so far. It's a lot of work actually being able to put everything together as well as the research and everything, but I really do hope that everyone is enjoying what we have so far. But moving on, we're going to be starting off with Central Thanalan. The main gates of Udal opens up to the desolate wastes that comprise Central Thanalan. Caravans laden with goods can be seen passing through the area, as can tired refugees lacking even their daily bread. This is a place that strikes a stark contrast between those who have naught and those who want for naught. So everyone knows that in Udal, the gap between the wealthy and the poor are huge. It's just a giant gap. You're either well off or you're not. There's almost no middle ground here. So if you don't have money within this city, then chances are you're not going to make it for long. You're not going to be given any kind of respect or any kind of possibilities for a better tomorrow. But in all the places across Thanalan, it's most noticeable here in Central Thanalan. So Central Thanalan is actually divided into three different areas. We have the Spineless Basin, Blackbrush, and the Clutch. So we'll start off with Spineless Basin, which is actually the closest to Udal. It's right at their very doorstep. So cacti once grown so plentifully within this hollow that it was once known as Cactus Basin. The fires of the calamity purged the soil of most flora, however, and it was not long before locals preferred to call it a better suited moniker. So here in the Spineless Basin we have Stone's Throw. So those refugees who await or have been denied Udon citizenship have gathered in the shade of the city walls to build a shanty town that grows with each sunrise. The name is a cruel play upon these people, living but a stone's throw from the city while serving as the targets of those who would keep them from entering. So that's really kind of sad here. So a lot of these people are Alamegan refugees or merely people that came from like other towns or villages that were either destroyed in the calamity or were overrun with Garleans. So the people here, they're not really allowed inside the city unless they have coin. They try to scrape by, they try to earn honest livings, either like as laborers, miners. So they really don't have too much to get by. They're really only kind of living off the scraps that are left over from the wealthy at this point. Next up, we have Fesca's Watch. It's built in the shadow of a towering monolith known as Fesca's Watch. Adventurers created the near Epimonus camp outside the city walls to escape the prize of a room within Udal. So it's also a place where I think a lot of refugees kind of take refuge, but it's really mostly for adventurers who kind of settled here because they don't want to have to pay for a room somewhere within Udal, like one of their inns or anything like that, and it works just as well. I do know that a lot of refugees have also found their way here from time to time. I guess they really don't want to make it so obvious that they're living kind of off the scraps of Udal at this point, so can't really blame them for that. Moving on, we have the Royal Plantations. The Sultana herself established the Royal Plantations as a means of aiding impoverished refugees seeking succor from their city-states. Run by a botanist named Gagari, it appears that much of the plantation's produce is in fact purchased by the wealthy while the paupers it was intended for remain hungry. So that sucks right then and there, because, I mean, it started off as a good idea, you know, teaching refugees like valuable skills like how to take care of plants, how to farm, especially in this kind of desolate wasteland, but the crops they grew were so good that the wealthy come to buy it. So unfortunately, the people who work hard to actually grow it really don't get too much of it, unfortunately. Next up, we have the Udal's Dispatch. Owned by Amija & Sons Mineral Concern, the Udal Dispatch Yard serves as the hub for the company's freight trains. The revolutionary steam engines in these trains are powered with water heated to boil by cerulean and can carry several tons of raw ore, saving both time and manpower. So if you crossed over central Thanalan, I'm sure you must have seen these train tracks. So there are trains that exist within this world, however they don't run like on coal or anything else like we have here in the real world. It's pretty much run on steam and the power of cerulean. So we haven't seen a train really go by. I think that would be really cool though if we did have like a train go by every once in a while just to see it. I don't know, but I think that would be really neat. Following that, we have the Sultan tree. The Sultan tree is said to have been planted in honor of Sasigen ul Sisigen, first of his name and founder of Udal. So it wouldn't surprise me because given the gargantuan size of it, at least compared to the other trees, it's huge. So it should be at least several hundred years old, so it really wouldn't surprise me if it turns out that it was actually planted by the very first sultana who ruled over Udal, who helped found Udal. And finally, we have the Sagoli Gate. This massive protoculus allows the Immortal Flames to cast a watchful eye over travelers and goods passing to and from the Sagoli Desert, while serving as the last line of defense against approaching armies from the east. So the Sagoli Desert is much more to the south. We talked about that in the last video in southern Thanalan. And this gate here is kind of keeping an eye out for any kind of troublemakers, making sure that no like illegal substances enter the city proper, that or the brass blades are trying to steal whatever they can from it. It wouldn't surprise me, they are known to do that. But it also serves as kind of like the last vanguard, like should like Almaja forces ever decide they want to storm the city or something like that. Okay, so that's everything we have down here in Spineless Basin. So let's move up more to the central part of central Thanalan, where we have Blackbrush. Sitting at the intersection of the Royal Allegan Sunway and southbound Royal Allegan Starway, Blackbrush serves as both the final stop for these bound for Udal, as well as for a place for final farewells to those travelers and merchants leaving the city. So we actually have a bunch of landmarks that we have here, so let's start off with the coffin. It's a favorite haunt for the area's many miners. The coffin has ale to wet the throats and stew to fill the bellies of any and all who have withal pay for the tavern's humble luxuries. Its name comes from a popular song where an upbeat fellow promises to fill his coffers with coin from the betting table, or should he lose it all, enter the city dragging his own coffin behind him. Kind of grim, but then again, I think that most of the bars and inns that we have here kind of have gloomy names. So, I mean, like the Drowning Wench, really? So this is actually a nice place right out here in the middle of the desert, mostly for miners, like it said, where you can actually sit, talk, converse with a lot of people from Almija and Sons, and just have a really nice relaxing time. It's a nice little safe place here in the desert. Alright, but the main part that we have here in Blackbrush would probably be Blackbrush Station. It does have an aetheryte crystal, and it's a marvel of modern innovation. The steam engine has transformed the mining industry, increasing efficiency and profits thrice over. It has also led to the transformation of what was once a thinly manned aetheryte outpost into a thriving crossroads of labor and commerce, a new pillar to support the thriving udon economy. So, Blackbrush was actually a very tiny town. It was really more of a waylay point that you kind of stop and rest for a little while and then move straight on to Udal. But because of its location, it was perfect as kind of set up as the main station for the trains that are going back and forth carrying all manner of supplies and mining goods. Alright, after that we have the Sildith excavation site. The city-states of Udal and Sildith coexisted for generations until 400 years ago when bad blood festering between the two sultans culminated in the War of the Sisters, leaving Sildith a smoldering pile of rubble to be claimed by the shifting desert sands, and the subsequent relocation of Udal pressed the city-state nearly directly above her fallen sibling. So that's insult to injury there. So there were two cities. So, according to history, a sultan at one point ended up having twin sons, and these two sons kind of fought over the right to rule when their father died. So, eventually it just got to a point that was like, they kind of split the city in half. So, one twin ended up getting one city, which became Udal, and the other twin ended up getting the other part of the city, which became Sildith. And so they were able to coexist for a little while, but it did quickly erupt into an all-out war at one point. neither side was really happy with just getting half a pie, they wanted the whole pie. So eventually, just due to a lot of fighting and a lot of trickery and a lot of betrayal, Sildeth ended up being destroyed, more or less. And to add insult to injury, Udal kind of rebuilt the whole city right on top of where their sister city-state used to be. So that's a big middle finger if ever I heard one. Alright, so moving on here, we have the Rat's Nest. Nothing really special about this. It is a small encampment often frequented by unsavory characters of Quiverone origin. The Rat's Nest is also believed to be the hideout of a wanted cut purse known as Quiverone Quickfingers. So, not really too much here, just a lot of wild Quiverone, kind of almost savage, thief-like in nature. So they're not like a lot of Quiverone that we have seen, like in Limsa, for example. So it's really a place that people tend to avoid, otherwise they do get gutted there. Next we have Lost Hope. So just like Stone's Throw, this is another place where refugees kind of hobble together to try to eke out a living. As the name implies, none but those who have lost all hope dare enter this forsaken place. The dark, humid caves provide the perfect level of concealment for growing dream flowers, outlawed flora whose milk is used to create the highly addictive sporific known as Somnus. Yeah, so I guess this is kind of that dark part of town. So this is like where the drug dealers go. So with Lost Hope, it just started off like as a small little area where a lot of refugees joined, but they tried to, I don't know, maybe they just weren't able to make much work as a laborer, maybe they weren't able to get any jobs at all. So here they decided to start growing a special type of flower which can be used to make a very powerful kind of drug known as Somnus. So Somnus is actually really sought after by a lot of people in town because of all the effects that it has, but again, it is illegal and anyone who's caught with it is usually seen as being jailed. But not all parts of Central Thanalan are bad, such as the Bonfire. So the Bonfire is where a goblin scholar named Mutamix and a patchwork band of adventurers devoted to his teachings reside in the light of the bonfire, where they earnestly study the mysteries of materia. It's a type of crystal which can be melted into items to enhance their properties. Here, the men and women labor to spread knowledge of materia's miraculous qualities and are willing to impart their knowledge to any willing to lend their ears. So this is actually a really nice place that we visited early on in the game, where materia, like it said, is a special crystal that you can actually attach to your weapons, your gear, your accessories to help improve your fighting abilities. So it really is a good place to be able to visit, and they're really friendly here. I mean, it does look like a bit of a junk pile here, but the people are always friendly, they're always willing to share what they know, and like I said, it's a really nice change to be able to speak with people who aren't so desolate like in a lot of places. Alright, moving up a little more north, we have Nanawa Mines. Under Amaja & Sons' mineral concern, Nanawa Mines briefly faced closure when its supplies of quality silver were thought to have been exhausted. With the recent perfection of refining techniques that allow for the extraction of metals from even the lowest quality of ore, however, the mine has once again been opened for excavation. So there really isn't too much valuable minerals or ores that you can find inside Nanawa Mines. However, it is a good place for people who may be just starting out with mining and can actually go here, get experience, and learn how to be able to refine their techniques. So not much more can actually be said around here, except it's a place of learning, I suppose, if you want to call it. And finally, the last part that we'll draw attention to here in Blackbrush is Cutlers Cry. Cutlers Cry is a cavern in which woodcutters traveled between Mordona and Udal would sometimes take refuge when caught in Thanaland's rare yet deadly thunderstorms. There are dark rumors, however, that many who entered the grot's gaping maw were never to return, their screams warning others to give wide berth to the accursed place. In its depths dwells a fearsome chimera, or if the Dark Light Raiders, a band of infamous mercenaries are to be believed, dwelled. So yes, there is actually a chimera that lives here in Cutlers Cry, and it's at the very bottom though, so the only way that you would actually come across it is if you go too far in. So Cutlers Cry is actually the location of another dungeon which has the same name, Cutlers Cry, and you are free to run through kind of a desert-like region of it and be able to experience fighting against giant ants. There are giant ants all over the place here, so you might want to watch your step there. But there are a bunch of other creatures that are lurking beneath the sands besides giant ants and the chimera, so only venture in here if you really want to risk it. Okay, so we're finally moving on to the last patch we have in central Thanalan, which is known as the Clutch. The Clutch is a high-walled valley that stretches out to the east of Blackbrush beyond Soup Creek, as the Calamity has closed off most other routes east. One seeking quick passage to Gridania is forced to traverse this narrow gulch, lest he add several days to his journey by detouring north through Mordona or south through the Sagoli Desert. So yes, if you are trying to get all the way up north to Gridania, this is probably the quickest way to be able to do so. Otherwise, again, you would have to go through either northern Thanalan or go through southern Thanalan and take a long route to be able to get there. This is probably the quickest way to be able to get to Gridania. So in this area, we only have two real landmarks to really pay attention to. One of them is known as the Unholy Air. When Dalamud's outer shell came crashing down, a section fused with the boulder. Scholars have attributed this curious phenomenon to the dark matter of which they believe Dalamud was constructed. Local small folk have their own theories, claiming that the formation is actually an egg laid by Bahamut and will one day hatch, unleashing yet another unholy monstrosity on the realm. Well, I don't think they need to worry about that because Bahamut was a male, so I don't think they need to really worry about an egg hatching here. But otherwise, we have the Quiverone Mines. Once the summer home of Elaine Quiverone, a recently deceased member of the Syndicate, this Mines now lies in ruins and serves as the hideout for a group of thieving bandits who prey upon travelers journeying east through the Clutch. So again, not really too much interesting information here, just another landmark to kind of be wary of, but that's basically everything that we have for Central Thanalan. So it definitely has like the most landmarks compared to a lot of the others. I do think that Southern Thanalan is probably the biggest, but Central Thanalan is probably a close second. Okay, so that is everything that we should really need to know about Central Thanalan. We only have one more area left, and that is Northern Thanalan. Now, compared to a lot of the other regions that we have in Thanalan, Northern Thanalan is probably, without a doubt, the smallest. So we're only going to be covering two real locations, such as Blue Fog and Ralbon's Push. So compared to a lot of the other regions that we see, like I said, it is the smallest and there's really not much to look at here. Compared to the rest of Thanalan, when you go to it, if it's a hot sunny day, you will see it. Here, you never see like a nice clear sky, and that's because of all the cerulean. Here in Blue Fog, which is in the southern part of Thanalan here, though abundance of the northern continent of Ishabard, only a handful of cerulean deposits have ever been discovered in Aldenard. The largest being here under the Sea of Spires in northern Thanalan. Ceruleum is a highly unstable substance and it will begin to evaporate when it comes in contact with the air. That's why there's this bluish haze which kind of covers the entire area and how the area earned its name of Blue Fog. So Blue Fog, we have Camp Blue Fog. Camp Blue Fog was built as a post where armed men could patrol the Cerulean Fields. Originally, this duty fell to the brass blades and stone torches, but with the Empire's forces a mere stone throw away, however, the Immortal Flames have since taken control. Yeah, so the brass blades and stone torches kind of moved back closer to Udon, just to kind of act as more as security guards, whereas the Immortal Flames kind of took on the full blunt of protecting this place, because again, it is the largest place here in all of Aldenard that has ceruleum, so it needs to be protected so that they can continue to process the ceruleum. We have here the east and west watchtowers, however, to help protect it. The Empire has begun their own mining operations, but a stone's throw from the allied refineries, heightening tensions in the area and prompting the construction of the two watchtowers. So we have guards constantly keeping a lookout for any kind of Garleans, and once they see something they don't like, they're able to contact the rest of the Immortal Flames who come to deal with it. So far, it's really more of a standoff between the two sides. However, the Immortal Flames have been able to resist them up till now. Okay, also we have what's known as the abandoned Amaja Mithril Mines. So the discovery of Mithril in a small copper mine in Blue Fog triggered the Great Rush, also known as the Mad Mithril Rush, which saw would-be prospectors flocking to the Sea of Spires in search of quick and easy fortune. The veins that ran through the mountains, however, were not deep, and it was but 10 summers before the mine ceased to yield any kind of precious metal, forcing many to abandon their claims. Now the shafts serve as a hideout for the remnants of the lands of Daley, a doomsday cult that rose in popularity at the end of the 6th Astral Era. So this place is really an abandoned miner town, so there's really nothing here, there's nothing really of value or of worth in those mines anymore. However, it's a perfect place for this cult who believes that the end of the world will come because of Daley, kind of X out a living here. Though I don't understand why they would want to celebrate the idea of a giant dragon or even a giant moon falling on top of everyone and killing everybody, but hey, I'm not going to judge them for that, at least not too much. And finally, we have Daley's Talons. So, grim monuments to the calamities coming, Daley's Talons are a relatively small formation of corrupted crystal. People have given them their fearsome name as they are thought to resemble the mighty claws of Menfina's loyal hound. So yes, there's really not much to say about this part either, except that these are corrupted crystals. You see them scattered across northern Thanaland here and there. They're the bright orange crystals kind of jutting out of the land. Nothing really dangerous about them though, so you can go ahead and just walk on by them. They do look really cool, especially in this area, and it adds a little bit of color other than the grimly dark gray fog that seems to be hanging over everything. Okay, and the final area we're going to talk about is Ralbon's Push. So this is actually another small area. In the final days of the 6th Astral Era, the Cerulean Fields of northern Thanaland proved to be one of the most hotly contested areas in all of Eorzea, with the Empire amassing a giant host outside of Bluefog to seize control of the local fuel refineries. Though outnumbered 3-1, Ralbon and his army succeeded in pushing back the enemy. So, way to go, Ralbon. Like, he was able to lead his troops to be able to push back the Garlean forces, and they haven't tried since to really take control over everything. Here we have just 2 areas of note. We have the Cerulean processing plants, and we have Castro Meridianum. So we'll start off with the processing plants. Operated by Almeja and Sons Mineral Concern, this plant refines raw ceruleum into fuel for engines and other modern machinery. The Immortal Flames keep a heavy contingent of soldiers on hand to ensure that the facility and its precious product do not fall into the enemy hands. So it's actually a giant plant. You see like these giant tubes, you see like these giant machinery scattered about here. All of this is just for the ceruleum. Probably not a good idea to kind of stick around here too much because ceruleum is highly explosive. So just light a match or try to smoke a cigarette and boom, everything goes up in flames, so be warned. And finally, we have Castro Meridianum. Castro Meridianum is on the southernmost stronghold of the 14th Imperial Legion. Inside it stands the Praetorium, which is a fortress within a fortress and the command center for the Invasion Legion. The castrum is also one of the Phantom Train, a monstrous machine used to transport ordnance to Castrum Sentry in Mordona. So, for those of you who've already played through the game, you already know about this place, but this was basically the main headquarters for the 14th Legion, such as where Gaius Van Belsar kind of used to live. So if you haven't actually reached that point, spoilers there. If you end up going there after you complete A Realm Reborn, it is still there. However, there's really not too much of a threat around that area anymore because they've pretty much been cut off from the rest of the Empire because Gaius kind of slipped his leash, so to speak. But anyway, that's about everything that we really need to know about the remaining 2 lands that we have here in Thanaland, both central and northern. So we're finally done with Thanalan and Udon. So I hope you all enjoyed it and you're looking forward to what I have planned coming up for Gridania. So we have Gridania. That's going to be its own separate video, and we're also going to be covering the lands of the 12's Wood. So we're going to be having the Central Shroud, Southern Shroud, Eastern Shroud, and the Northern Shroud. We won't have a Western Shroud or anything like that because most of that was destroyed during the Calamity. And we're also going to have the Lavender Beds, which is going to be the main housing that we have for adventurers in that area. So we're going to be covering all of that, so it shouldn't take more than 2 or 3 episodes there. And then after that, I think we might have enough time to complete a run of Mordona. Once we finish Mordona, we should have pretty much all the lands covered from A Realm Reborn, and by that point, we should have Endwalker out. So I will be completing all of the lands eventually, but I hope that you will continue to have patience with me and that you'll look forward to what's coming next. Anyway, that's going to be it for right now. This is Fantasy Girl signing out.